Good morning, children. So, I am your English teacher. I am very fine, even though there is a lot of hazards, COVID-19, continuous lockdown. Even then, life is going on, and we will have to continue. So, if you stop, then life will also stop. Therefore, we will have to continue. And calamities, distress, danger, obstruction, this will come on the way, but we should not stop. Once we stop, then our life will also stop. So, you know, my dear children, life is just like a bicycle. So, when you ride, when you pedal the bicycle, then it will continue. When you stop paddling, then it will also stop working. So, in the similar manner, so we will also have to continue with our life here. Now, my dear children, so initially I will be starting with some image. So, now you just tell me what sort of images these are. What sort of image? Image of happiness, entertainment, fun? No, na? Then what sort of image it is? So, certainly these are images of fear, these are images of dread, horror, terrific, panic. Therefore, you will see. So, now you are afraid of ghost. Am I correct? You are afraid of ghost.
Bhoot.
Therefore, you will see as if some shadow is continuously haunting, and it is just pursuing you, just coming after you, just to catch you. Therefore, are you not afraid? Now, the question arises, this fear is logical or not? We should be afraid of it or not? So, what is your opinion? We should be afraid? Is there any ghost like substance? So, the answer is that we should not be afraid. So, what is the logic? Why should we not be afraid of? The answer is that if we are afraid, then we cannot enjoy our life, because this fear will come on the way of our life. It will be an obstruction, it will be a barrier, it will be an impediment, and because of this we cannot enjoy our life, and we cannot reach where we are supposed to reach. That means we cannot achieve things because of the fear. When the children will be afraid of the teacher, then there will be no learning. So, when the children, there will be continuous fear in the mind of the children, then that fear will come on the way of his learning, and therefore he cannot make out. Therefore, what is to be afraid of is fear. So, my dear children, have you heard of Roosevelt? So, he is Franklin D. Roosevelt. So, he was the 32nd President of the USA. So he said that what we should afraid of is only fear. And today we are going to start with a particular lesson where the writer himself, William O. Douglas was also a political advisor of Roosevelt. So we will see the writer William Orville Douglas was born in the year 1898, and he got retired as the associate judge of the Supreme Court of the USA in the year 1975, and in the history of the USA, he was the longest surviving judge. Therefore, here this particular lesson that we are going to start with is the deep water. So, we are going to start with this lesson, deep water, my dear children. So, the lesson is deep water. The author is William Douglas, and this lesson is an extract or excerpt excerpt. Excerpt means this lesson is taken from his own autobiography. Name of the autobiography is Of a Man and Mountains, and he talks about his own personal or subjective fear, and he also tells about the means and ways by which the fear was overcome so that he can live a full life. My dear children, you will see. So, before start we will see. So, this lesson, name of the lesson is Deep Water. So, it is better that we should see how far the title is justified or apt or appropriate. Now, here we will see deep water. So, my dear children, do you know? So, among the seas, S-E-A-S, seas, which one is the deepest sea? Deepest sea, is it not the Pacific Ocean? Therefore, now here also we will see this lesson actually give a particular feeling of what sort of feeling actually it evokes. It evokes the feeling of the fear, the feeling of the dread. Feeling of the dread means extreme fear, feeling of the horror, feeling of the horror. Therefore, the title itself is indicative of the theme that the writer is going to deal with. Means in this lesson the writer is going to talk about his own personal experience, and through this he wants to tell that fear is something that is to be afraid of. Fear is something that we should make ourselves free from. Then only we can achieve our success. Then only we can lead our life successfully without any fear. My dear children, you will see here some of the fear. Okay. Now, fear is phobia. Suppose you are afraid of water, then what will be the kind of the fear? The fear will be aquaphobia. Aquaphobia. Now, suppose you are afraid of the height, then it will be called acrophobia. Suppose you are afraid of the confined, crowded place, then the term will be claustrophobia. Claustrophobia. Therefore, there are a lot of fears. Some of the people are afraid of the air, that is called aerophobia. Some of the people are afraid of the height. Some of the people are afraid of other sort of fear. Therefore, fear is a very common. Now, the writer through this lesson wants to give to the message that if you want to lead a complete life, successful life, then what is needed is one of the thing will have to erase from our life. We will have to free our mind from the fear, because this fear actually mirrors, the fear actually comes on the way of our enjoying life to the full. Therefore, I suppose you understood the significance of the title of this lesson. Now we will go for the explanation. So, my dear children, let us see the lesson now. Let us see it. Let us go below. So, before starting, we will see some of the terms are there. So, when you are studying, so this vocabulary part is very important, quite important, and you have to learn this vocabulary. And many times, suppose you do not know the vocabulary accurately, then also you will have to make a guess of the meaning. So, for that guessing, what is needed is, so your stock or the vocabulary will have to be richer. Then let us see this. Some of the uncommon, little unfamiliar terms are there: treacherous, subdued my prey, flailed at the surface, fishing for landlocked salmon, mid adventure, bobbed to the surface like a cork. Curtain of the life fell back and forth across the pool. Now see, my dear children, so here you will see some of the phrases are also there. So phrases are some cluster of words, some cluster or the group of words that together imply some meaning. Therefore, that also you will have to do master in order to appreciate, in order to understand the lesson to the full. Now, the story is a very simple story, and this story happened to the writer. This is a first person narrative, and the writer happened to go to the California beach. My dear children, do you know or have you heard of the California beach? California beach is very famous in America. So, what the narrator did, the narrator in the company of the father went to the beach of California. When he had been there, then the huge wave many a time did what? Came in such a manner that it overshadowed him, and because of that, what happened? He was extremely afraid of, and then the father was smiling or laughing. Therefore, this fear was constant. So, it was only at the age of maybe 3 or 4 that he went to the California beach, and this fear that was planted in his mind was constant. Therefore, whenever he went to the water, whenever he went to any body of the water or the pool of water, then this fear once again revived to his mind, frequented to his mind, or haunted to his mind. And therefore what he decided? He decided that he will have to read or free himself from the fear. And for this purpose, what he did, he went to the YMCA pool. Now, the question arises, there was Yakima River just near Washington, but he did not go for it because the river was a little treacherous. Okay, this river was a little treacherous. So many rivers are there. You will see in many parts of India, many rivers are there. You will see right in the morning there is full of water, in the evening time there is no water at all. So this is called the treacherous. This is called the treacherous nature of the river. This is the treacherous nature of the river, and therefore I will read out some of the lines here, and I will see the unfamiliar words I have already reddened. Therefore, you will see, it had happened when I was 10 or 11 years old. I had decided to learn to swim. There was a pool at the YMCA in Yakima that offered exactly the opportunity. The Yakima River was treacherous. Now see, my dear children. So now, so in a flashback method, do you know flashback method? Flashback method means, suppose you are in the age 10 or 11. Now you are going to your age, okay, you are going back in time, traveling back in time, you are going to that particular age when you were 3 or 4, that is called flashback method. So the first person narrator, the writer also, in a flashback went to that particular year when he was 10 or 11, and then he was telling that I had decided to learn to swim. My dear children, you see why he decided to learn to swim. So आप देखेंगे कि हर चीज का कुछ कॉज होता है, कुछ इफेक्ट होता है. So now there are some cause. So what are the cause? The cause was that of the California beach. California beach had some impact on the writer. So what was the impact? The impact was that it actually frightened him. It actually dreaded him. It made him afraid of water. From that particular day, he had that aquaphobia, and therefore, because of this cause, what happened? Now he is very much afraid of water. He is suffering from aquaphobia, and therefore he is now going to take an action. What is the action? The action is that he wanted to free his mind from the fear, and therefore he told that, okay, I'll be going to YMCA pool. He is going to a pool. YMCA, have you heard of? My dear children, YMCA stands for Young Men's Christians Association. Therefore, he had chosen this one. Now, when you are choosing between the two, one is Yakima River, Another is a YMCA pool. Now, why he went for YMCA? Because it was not so deep. Means it was shallow. Or it was not deep. Means there is no case, or there is no fear. There is no fear of drowning. Because as you are a novice, 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 as he was a beginner, as he was learning the art of swimming, and therefore he was very much afraid that he may die of sinking, drowning, and therefore what he did, so he had also learnt. His mother told that Yakima River is a very much treacherous. Yakima River is a very much deceitful, means it cheated people like anything. It cheats people, deceive people. Okay. Therefore, as what is the kind of the deception? The kind of the deception is that there is a lot of drowning cases, and therefore the writer had made the choice or the option of the YMCA pool to learn the art of swimming in order to free his mind from the fear. Is it clear, my dear children? Therefore you will see. So it was safe. So some point you will be writing why he went for YMCA pool. You will be writing. So writing the points. So you can just remember in the form of the point. That will be better. What will be your wisdom? You will be remembering into the form of the word. Number one is safe. It was safe. Then it was not deep, or it was shallow. On the other hand, the other one was very treacherous. It was deeper. There is a lot of drowning cases. Because of all this, he had chosen the YMCA pool for learning the art of swimming, so that he can lead a very free and successful life. Let us see, my dear children. So this is the picture of the Yakima River. This is the picture of the Yakima River. You have seen this picture. So there is a lot of drowning cases. This is the Yakima River is a tributary of the Columbia River in the eastern Washington, USA. The state is named after the indigenous Yakima people. Means there is a tribe of people called Yakima, and because of this, or it is named after those tribal people, that is called Yakima, and therefore the name was Yakima, and it is just neighboring to Washington. Therefore, this is the picture. and here the picture is that of unhappy one, because there is a lot of cases of drowning here. So, in that particular disappointing mood, the writer actually mentioned this Yakima river. Now, let us go forward. See this line, my dear children. From the beginning, however, I had an aversion to the water when I was in it. This started when I was 3 or 4 years old and father took me to the beach in California. He and I stood together in the surf. I hung on to him, yet the waves knocked me down and swept over me. I was buried in water, my breath was gone. I was frightened. Father laughed, but there was terror in my heart at the overpowering force of the wave. My dear children, any water difficult? So you will have to write the answer of this question. When did the fear of the narrator or the writer start? Then you will have to tell the fear started at the age of 3 or 4. Where it started? It started in the beach of California. So, who accompanied him? His father accompanied him. So, what is the reaction of the father? The father laughed at him, because he was very much afraid of, because the wave buried him. The wave buried him inside the water, and therefore the father was laughing, and then he was extremely afraid, and this fear that was planted in his mind was continuous, and therefore because of this purpose he wanted to go for learning the art of swimming in the YMCA pool. Now, my dear children, you will see. So, do you know what is the adventure? Let us see the word adventure. Adventure. ADVEN, adventure. Adventure is something that is very much daring. Okay, that is very much daring or challenging. Very much daring or challenging. Means where your courage, your forbearance, all these are needed or challenged. Now, when there is a misadventure, so when you are adding this syllable miss, then misadventure, mid-adventure. So, this misadventure will mean some mishap, okay, M-I-S-H-A-P. Let me write it again, M-I-S-H-A-P, mishap, means some accident. So, now what exactly happened? Many times accident happen because of what? Because of the fun or the entertainment. Many people are there, they make fun at the cost of you, means they take usually you as the weapon of the fun or mockery, and therefore you become the victim of the fun or entertainment. Here also the writer was a very lean and thin, he was a very skinny and bony, and therefore what happened? So, one day he was just waiting, so he was observing the water was very clean, he could see the tile on the bottom, it was so clean, and it was so lonely, nobody was there, and therefore he didn't feel like going to the water all alone, and therefore he wanted to have some companion. And what happened? A bruiser of a boy, means a young boy who was a muscle boy. So he had the rippling muscle. Okay, my dear children, R-I-P-P-L-E. Ripple actually is related to the wave. W-A-V-E, wave. Means his muscles are just like the wave, water wave. Means a particular person. So he came, his age was nearly 18 and he was a muscle man, or he was having a rippling muscle. He came here and then he wanted to make fun of the narrator, and then he gave the proposal, "Hi dear, so if I duck you, then what will happen? You will see." So I'll be starting from here. My introduction to the YMCA swimming pool revived unpleasant memories of and stirred childish fear. Okay, now let us see this one. So when I was introduced to the YMCA swimming pool, that actually brought back unpleasant memories of the past, and that also stirs, that also evokes the fear that is very common to all the children. But in a little while I gathered confidence. I pedaled with my new water wings, watching the other boys and trying to learn by aping them, by imitating them, by following them. I did this 2 or 3 times on different days and was just beginning to feel at ease in the water when the misadventure happened. My dear children, you see, misadventure happened. Some accident happened, some mishap happened. So he was very much new, he was a beginner. He was slowly and gradually he was gathering his confidence. He went to the pool 2 or 3 times, and on different occasions he followed his friends, and just by imitating or following them, he was just beginning to be expert, beginning to gather the confidence. At that time, what happened? The accident happened. So now see, I went to the pool when no one else was there. The place was quiet, the water was still, and the tile bottom was as white and clean as a bathtub. I was timid about going in alone, so I sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. Now see, he was waiting. As he was all alone, and therefore he wanted some company. He was afraid of, timid means fearful. He was very much afraid of going to the water all alone, and therefore what happened? He was waiting for somebody so that he can go to the water. Then what happened? So at that time, what happened? One particular boy came. I had not been there long when in came a big bruiser of a boy, probably 18 years old. He had a thick hair on his chest. He was a beautiful physical specimen with legs and arms that showed a rippling muscle. He yelled, "Hi, skinny, how would you like to be ducked?" Okay, ducked. Now, you see, so as you have seen, he was a beautiful specimen of physical beauty. Therefore, what he did, he was a very strong and stout boy, and he gave the proposal to the child, to the narrator, to the writer. What was the proposal? How would you like to be ducked? Means he wanted to hurl, hurl, or throw him into the water. So proposal was given, and instantly the action was also taken. Simply just by telling he was thrown into the water. He did not actually thought about the consequence. Out of fun or mockery, he actually tossed the baby, T-O-S-S-E-D, tossed. Throw the baby, T-H-R-O-W, throw the boy into the water. With that he picked me up and tossed me into the deep, and I landed in a sitting position, swallowed water and went at once to the bottom. I was frightened, but yet not frightened out of my weight. On the way down I planned, when my feet hit the bottom, out, make a big jump, come to the surface, lie flat on it, and paddle to the edge of the pool. My dear children, you see, when he was thrown, now many a time you will see that some unknown danger come to your life. So the question arises, how to overcome, how to manage this disaster. Disaster comes to everybody. The question is that we should not be frightened. We should not be so frightened that we cannot decide anything, and we become the victim of that particular incident. What we will have to do? We will have to make our mind very much alert so that we can decide. We can take action, because in a cool mind we will have to think and we will have to take the action. That was also the position of the writer. What the writer did, the writer, even though he was frightened, he was not frightened out of his wit. My dear children, you see, wit means intellect. INTELLECT, intellect. Means his knowledge, his intelligence was still now working. His IQ was still working. And therefore, even though he faced with the calamity or the danger, what he did, so he was making some plan. Okay, he was making some plan. So उनका प्लान क्या था? वो ऐसा प्लान कर रहे थे कि when my feet hit the bottom, जब मेरा feet bottom of the pool को टच करेंगे, I would make a big jump. Then हम क्या करेंगे? वहाँ से हम thrust up, make a big jump and come to the surface, and then I will be swimming, and just like the cork of a bottle, I will be coming to the surface, and then I will be rescued out of the danger. Then what happened in this way? What happened? You will see that. So this is a very horrible experience for the narrator. So what happened? This part is important. So what we will see, these are quite very simple, and therefore you can simply have the summary of it. Therefore what happened, in the deeper intake it was 9 feet. So his feet touch the ground, and then his lungs was ready to burst. And then when he was touching the bottom, he gathered all his energy, and then what happened? As he planned, as he imagined, he wanted to come up. But my dear children, you will see that man proposes, God disposes. What we plan, just the opposite happens. Such is the case with the writer also. So he planned that he will be coming on to the surface of the water, and then just like the cork of the bottle, so he will be coming to the surface and then go to the side of the pool, and then he will be rescued. But it happened otherwise. He was so heavy, he felt himself quite heavy, and therefore there is again the pool of the water. The gravitational pull was there. It was drawing him down to the water, and because of that, what happened? He went to the water, went down to the water second time, and then once again what happened? Once again he wanted to make an upward thrust, but he wanted to see the water surface of the water, and then he planned that he will be making some yelling or shouting, and somebody will be rescuing him. But so He made some sound, the sound of the shriek could not be heard because it was from inside, and therefore there was nobody to rescue him. And then it was the third time he made the journey downward, and then what happened? He was there lying very cool, and then he experienced death. My dear children, let us see. He experienced death. So here I will tell you one thing. You see, in this particular lesson, the writer also talks about the death. Even though he is not directly telling it, he gives some hint about it. He gives some hint about it in the lesson. So normally, what happens? People are very much afraid of death. Very much afraid of death. That death is something to be dreaded, to be very much afraid of. But, so my dear children, you will see there was one poet, Emily Dickinson, an American poet, and many other writers and poets were there. There was John Donne in his poem Death Be Not Proud. So what is the image of the death is given, that death is not something to be very much dreaded of. So it is a simple or common phenomenon, and here also the writer experienced death, and he was telling that death is not something to be afraid of, to be frightened of. It is so cool, it is so calm. So as if it is having the soothing hand on the people, means it pacifies the people. It is not something to be dreaded or to be extremely afraid of. This particular feeling is given. You will see in this part, I went down and down, unless I opened my eyes, nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. Therefore, he was going down and down. The water was very dark or murky. He could not see through it. It was not transparent. It was opaque. It was not transparent, and therefore he could not see through it, and therefore initially what happened, he was extremely afraid, or the terror was grabbing or seizing him, and the terror did not have any understanding. Terror was untrained or uncontrolled. The terror could not be understood by anybody who has not experienced. That was the initial feeling, my dear children. But what happened? He seemed to be paralyzed underwater. And finally, he saw that the pounding of his head was enormous, and slowly and gradually what happened, all this feeling went, and then he saw. He was feeling very calm, very quiet, very serene. So it was quite peaceful. Means at the end, the writer actually tells that death is not something to be afraid of. It is not really so. It is something like a friend. Therefore, finally, what he discovered, he discovered himself on the side of the pool, and he was attended by the particular boy who was the bruiser of the boy, or the rippling. Okay, the boy with the rippling muscle. So he was telling that he did not think about the consequence. He actually wanted to make fun of him, and because of that, he ducked him he tossed him onto the water. Therefore, so this is the particular incident that happened. And now what happened? Initially, what the writer did, my dear children, initially he wanted to be safe from water. Means he made some distance from the water. But he thought that if I make a distance with the water, then it will come on the way of my enjoying life, and therefore he did to what? He wanted to overcome the fear. So, for this purpose, my dear children, what he did? He had an instructor. He had an instructor, and what the instructor did? The instructor was a very expert person, and therefore what he did? So, he made him an expert in the art of swimming, and in order to test, in order to rehearse how far he learnt, what he did, he began to experiment, okay, whether this fear was there, any remnant or residue of the fear was there in his mind. A few years later, when I came to know that the water of the cascade, I wanted to get into them, and whenever I did, whether I was wading the Teuton, bumping river, or bathing in warm lake of the goat rock, the terror that had seized me into the pool would come back. It would take a position of me completely. My leg would become paralyzed. Icy horror would grab my heart. Therefore, now see, these are the examples by which the writer wanted to tell that all this sort of water game, whether it is in the river or in the sea, all this game he could not enjoy because he was having a handicap. He was experiencing a handicap, and the handicap was that he was suffering from aquaphobia, and therefore he wanted to remove it, and therefore he finally got an instructor. He learned the art, and therefore he began to do experiment, and you will see his experiment started. So, now this is the part of where the instructor actually took a special matter to teach him the art of the swimming. I used every way I knew to overcome this fear, but it held me firmly in its grief. Finally, one October, I decided to get an instructor and to learn to swim. So, this is the method by which his instructor helped him piece by piece, slowly and gradually, and finally he made him an expert in the art of swimming. Then, as an experiment of what he did, so he wanted to test himself, and for this purpose, what he did, he went out in New Hampshire, and then he went to Trix Island, and all sort of strokes he tried. And then in the midst of this exercise, what happened? The old sensation of the fear in very miniature form, in very small form came, and then the writer, he told himself, I laughed and said, well, Mr. Terror, what do you do? What do you think you can do to me? I fled and I swam on. Now see, here the fear is personified. My dear children. So, this is the personification of the fear. Mr. Terror means the fear personified, and he was telling, as if it is a man, he was challenging him, telling that you cannot make me afraid. I'm not now anymore afraid of you. And therefore, so saying, what he did, he continued swimming. And in this way, whatever residual fear that he had in his mind, so what he did, he overcome all this fear, and he became an expert in the art of swimming. The experience had a deep meaning for me, as only those who have known stark terror and conquered it can appreciate. Now he is of the opinion that those people who were experiencing the terror or the threat, and those people who overcome or conquer it, they can only appreciate, they can only laud, L-A-U-D, laud, they can only praise my effort. So now he is quoting some of the lines from Roosevelt. In death there is peace. So now you see the picture of death that is given, it is not something horrible, something not fearful. Death is there and death is peaceful. There is a terror only in the fear of death. Roosevelt knew when he said all we have to fear is fear itself. So he is now quoting Roosevelt, the president of the United States of America. So he also gave the very motivational speech. He was telling that we should not at all be afraid of the fear, we should only be afraid of the word fear. Because I had experienced both the sensation of the dying and the terror that fear of it can produce, the will to live somehow grew in intensity. Now see, the willpower now become very enormous, very intense into the mind, because he experienced both the sensation of the dying and the terror that the fear can produce into the mind. And because of that, what happened, his willpower to live on become very much intense. At last, the narrator felt released, free to walk through the trails and climb to the peak and to brush aside fear. Finally, what happened? Whether it is the peak of the hill or the mountain, whether it is the deep of the water, whether it is the trails in the midst of the forest or mountain, so he did not have any kind of fear of any type, and he overcome it. Therefore, the narrator become a successful person to overcome fear and become successful, and he become an example for other people to be emulated. Therefore, you can sum up this lesson in this manner, that the only thing that we are to be afraid of is fear, my dear children. So, this is the end of the lesson. Now, we will be seeing some of the MCQ of this lesson. My dear children, you see, who is the author of this lesson, Deep Water? Who is the author? So, author is William Douglas. In which subject has the author been graduated? Now this is the biography of the writer. So, he was graduated in English and history. For how many years had the author taught in high school in Okima? For 2 years. After the author was fed up with the teaching, he decided to opt for which career? So, he wanted to go for legal career, means he wanted to be the advocate, he wanted to be a lawyer. What is the story Deep Water speaking about? So, it talks about the fear of water and the way to overcome it. Then the next one, how did the author's fear vanish? With courage, guidance and determination. YMCA stands for Young Men's Christian Association. Then, where is Yakima located? It is located in US city in Washington. Where did the writer go when he was 3 or 4 years old? He went to the beach of California. Number C. Why did he develop a fear of water? Because of knocking down by waves at beach in California. What is haunting the author? So, the haunting fear was the terrible experience in the terrible experience in the pool. How did the author learn swimming? With the help of instructor. What did William O. Douglas desire for? William O. Douglas desired for swimming. What did the author realize while drowning in the pool? So, he realized the terror in fear of death. What is the theme of the story Deep Water? So, this theme of the story is victory in facing the fear, being fearful, to learn swimming, means this theme is all this theme are discussed here. Therefore, you see in this way you will be seeing this one. Why has the author given an autobiographical note in Deep Water? Because this autobiographical note or his subjective note will help the people, help the audience to learn how this simple subjective theme can also be generalized or can be helpful for the people. What does deep water signify? So, this deep water signifies what? Neither the beauty nor the frantic. So, it actually refers to the depth of the sea. Who threw Douglas into the swimming pool? A young boy, 18 years old. What was the deep water fear in Douglas' mind? What was the deep water fear in Douglas' mind? Fear was being drowned. What is the misadventure that William Douglas speak about? Misadventure was somebody threw him into the pool. So, my dear children, in this way you will see all this MCQ. Towards the end you will see this answer also is given. Why was the writer at first not much frightened when he was thrown into the pool? Why was the writer at first not much frightened when he was thrown into the pool? What will be the answer? Because of the overconfidence, because of instructions, because of people around, because of confidence, answer will be because of confidence. In this way you will see all this MCQ also while you are preparing for your examination. I hope you have understood it and you will be writing your question and answer too. Okay, then let us stop here.